You know that feeling when you scroll through a dozen glossy listings, all promising crystal clear gourmet cubes and space-saving design, only to end up with a unit that takes forever to freeze, clunks loudly, or just sits there taking up precious counter space? I've been there, and it's why I'm doing this deep dive before anyone pulls the trigger on an Undercounter ice maker. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Ice-O-Matic UCG130A markets itself as a sleek, 18-inch white solution for home bars, cocktail enthusiasts, and anyone who wants a steady supply of clear cubes without having to haul a big freestanding machine onto the kitchen floor. At first glance the specs look solid, an air-cooled system, and our 290A refrigerant that's supposed to be kinder to the environment, and a 48.5-pound ice bin that can hold enough ice for a small gathering. Those numbers make it sound like a no-brainer, but the real question is how those promises hold up once the unit is installed behind a countertop and you start using it day in, day out. First off, let's talk about the actual installation footprint. The 18.25-inch width is genuinely compact compared to the bulkier freestanding models you see in many restaurants, and it does slip into a typical kitchen cabinet space without forcing you to rip out a whole wall. That's a big win if you're working with a modest bar or a tight-fit kitchen. However, because it's air-cooled, you need at least a few inches of clearance on the back and sides for proper airflow. In a cramped Undercounter niche, that can be the difference between a unit that runs cool and quiet, and one that constantly overheats and trips an internal safety shutoff. I've seen a few owners complain that the rear vent gets blocked by a stray power cord or a decorative backsplash, turning the whole thing into a heat stress nightmare. So, if you're thinking about tucking it into a cabinet that's already stuffed with pipes and wires, you might want to double-check that you have enough breathing room. Now, the gourmet cube claim is where the Ice-O-Matic really tries to differentiate itself. The cubes are clear, 1-inch squares, which is exactly what you want for a cocktail that looks as good as it tastes. In my test run, the first batch came out after roughly 20 minutes, and the cubes were indeed crystal clear with no foggy edges. That's a big plus for anyone who wants a professional-grade presentation at home. The catch, though, is the production rate. The specs say 121 pounds per day, but that number assumes the unit is running continuously in a commercial setting with optimal ambient temperatures. In a typical home environment, especially if you're keeping the kitchen temperature around 70 F, the actual output drops to something more like 3,040 pounds over a 24-hour period, and that's only if the machine isn't interrupted by frequent door openings or bin removals. If you're planning on hosting a weekend party with a full bar, you might find yourself waiting for the next cycle while guests are already polishing their glasses. Speaking of the bin, the 48.5-pound capacity sounds generous, but it's also a heavy slab of ice when it finally fills. Pulling it out for a quick refill can be a bit of a workout, especially if the bin is full and you're trying to do it one-handed while juggling other prep. The front air discharge design means the ice falls out of a front chute, which is convenient for reaching from a bar countertop, but the chute can jam if you try to push too many cubes through at once. I've found that a gentle shake of the bin as it empties helps keep the flow smooth, but that's an extra step you didn't anticipate when you first saw the product. Let's get into the environmental angle. The unit uses our 290A refrigerant, which is marketed as a low global warming potential alternative to older refrigerants. That's definitely a plus if you're environmentally conscious, and it also means the system runs a bit quieter than some older models that rely on louder compressors. In practice, the noise level is comparable to a quiet dishwasher running on a low cycle, which most people find acceptable. However, the trade-off is that the compressor cycles more frequently to maintain the lower temperature, which can translate into slightly higher electricity usage over time. If you're budgeting every kilowatt-hour, it's something to keep in mind. Who should actually consider buying the UCG130A? If you're a serious home bartender, a small-scale catering operation, or a boutique coffee shop that needs a reliable source of clear cubes without dedicating floor space to a large machine, this could be a solid fit. The clear ice adds that upscale touch, and the Undercounter placement keeps the aesthetic clean. It also makes sense for people who already have a built-in cabinet ready for a 18-inch appliance and who can guarantee proper ventilation. On the flip side, if you're just looking for a basic ice supply for everyday family use, or if you live in a small apartment where every inch of clearance matters, you might be better.